Hey there, Fight here with a quick demo of how to make your site insanely fast and a quick explanation why you should care in the first place. So what I'm going to do is, in about a minute and a half, I'm going to show you two examples of sites that make every effort they can to go as fast as possible and what the difference is between those two. And then I'm going to show you the approach or methodology used of the faster one of the two. Alrighty, so let's switch over to this thing here. This is an article by none other than Neil Patel, and if you are not familiar with him, go Google him. He's a very, very successful entrepreneur online, and on his blog he basically talks about why it is critical to have fast pages, and the summary of all of it is basically about 40% of people will abandon a site if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load. And then the article goes on with basically all kinds of optimization techniques for making your site faster. Now, the interesting thing is, even with all those optimizations, when you go and take his site and put it into GTmetrix, GTmetrix is a standard tool for measuring the site speed. What you've got here is, for a page that has about 1 megabyte of data on it, it takes 4.4 seconds, and all of that results in a Y-slow score of 71%, which, as you can see, is a grade C. It's not very good, right? Now, take the other example, which is this one here. It is ugly, yes. I designed this, and I designed it in such a way that there's a lot of data in the background that is not easy to compress. So I wanted to have something that's of a similar size, and this combination here basically gave a page that is about the same size, as you can see, around about 1 megabyte. And as you can see here, this thing, instead of 4.4 seconds, only takes 2.5 seconds. And as a result, you have a Y-slow score of 91% instead of 71%. Now, in order to get a feeling for what that means to have a page load of 4.4 seconds versus 2.5 seconds, what I'm going to do is take these two sites. So I'm going to take this URL and open it up in Internet Explorer. There we go. So have a look. Just have a look how long this takes to load. So, not bad. But now let's compare this to the other page, this one here. So if we go over here and open this in a new tab, there we go. There's a difference there, isn't it? Now, I encourage you to take your own site and basically go to this tool. Go to, no, not this tool here, GTmetrix, right? You just Google GTmetrix or go to gtmetrix.com and put it in there and see what kind of scores you're getting. Now, I promised in the beginning I'd show you the difference and then also show you the tool that's behind the faster performing page, which is basically this one here. The problem with this one here is you have to do all kinds of manual optimizations. You have to go in and fiddle with your hosting and fiddle with your site and then manually compress pages, etc., etc. And the tool behind this here is called Convertri, and it basically does all of that for you. On top of that, Convertri is a full-blown visual editor that is great for building landing pages, right? So if you're building landing pages like email capture pages, webinar pages, sales pages, thank you pages, download pages, anything like that, Convertri is an absolutely beautiful tool because it is not constrained by having some fixed format of when things need to be. I could go into the editor and just move my video a tiny bit to the left or right, or move it up or down, or whatever I want to do. And that is something that is very, very hard with most other landing page builders. So Convertri combines both an incredible speed by basically some of the world's best hosting, and it is the hosting. I'm going to show you what it is. It's basically a company called Fastly, and Fastly are the company behind the hosting that hosts, for example, About.com or the Dollar Shave Club, or down here, if you look at this, that's like the who's who of online businesses. There's Twitter, there's Foursquare, there's Kickstarter, Etsy, Stripe, even Gov UK. I mean, you name it, Yelp. They're all on this platform. The beauty is with Convertri, you get access to this. It's all included in the hosting power, in the editor / hosting package. So all you need to do is focus on designing beautiful pages, which is very, very easy with the editor, and then all the hosting is taken care of. Now, I have a couple of questions or Q&A because there were a couple of webinars for people who are interested in Convertri, and there were some questions. So the first one I've already answered, whom is it for and whom is it not for? It's basically Convertri is a landing page builder. So like I said, email capture pages, sales pages, webinar pages, thank you pages, and so on. It's not ideal for building full-blown sites. So if you want to build a blog with hundreds of pages and you want to have the same navigation throughout and the same sidebar, etc., it's not for that. This is a tool for building specific landing pages. So if you're doing marketing-oriented content, that is what it's for. The other questions there were, the first one is, can you edit desktop after you switch to mobile? Basically, Convertri has two modes. One is for editing the desktop, then the other one is, of course, for mobile, because we want to make sure you take care of the 50% who use mobile devices these days. And that question came about because they're kind of two separate screens, which makes sense because some of the content you don't want to show on mobile. And the answer to this is, of course, you can edit the desktop after you switch over to mobile. However, the general recommendation is that you first create the desktop version, then switch over to mobile, and then do the refinements on the mobile. Okay. Because if you go and switch from desktop to mobile, mobile tends to be based off of the desktop one, and you start removing things. If you then switch back to desktop, do edits there, and try to transport them over to something you've already edited in mobile, that is, there's a high chance of leading to trouble. So in general, the recommendation is go to desktop, and then when you're done there, you switch over to mobile. Does it support two-step opt-in? Yes. There's something called layers in Convertri, so you can have several layers, which you can do for menus. You can use that for two-step opt-ins, anything where you have overlaid content. The answer is absolutely yes. They have a complimentary offer where you can buy or join their template club, and the question that comes up over and over again is, does it come with templates if you don't buy the template club? And the answer is absolutely yes. It does come with templates. There's a good handful for various funnels, software funnels, webinar funnels, product purchase funnels, etc., etc. But depending on your needs, just go and have a look at the template club. Or you just design your own or have your own design. There is a second complimentary offer, or OTO, one-time offer, which is basically a copywriting offer by a fairly well-known, or it depends on your market, of course, very well-known copywriter called Colin Therio. And he's put together a special offer where he's taken his two best-selling courses and he's selling them for the price of one. So if you want to improve your copywriting, especially for funnels like the ones you build with Convertri, then that might be something you're interested in. And the last question that came up over and over again is, does it work with X, where X is an autoresponder, a webinar service, or something else? And how do you configure this? And the answer is basically, it's very, very simple. You just drop very simple form code. So basically every single autoresponder, every single webinar service, etc., provides a little form code. It's sort of HTML. There's an action command in there. And you simply take that and put it into a field in Convertri. And then what happens is when you put together a landing page or an opt-in form in Convertri, it tells you which of the ones you have set up with this form code, which one do you want to assign to the field you are just editing here. So it is very, very simple. Personally, what I'm using is I'm using a tool called Leadsflow Pro, which I use as this front end for almost any opt-in form I'm using. Because that way, even if I ever switch the autoresponder service or if I switch a webinar service, it does not matter. I still have that one unique or one common entry point, and which webinar service or which autoresponder I use on the end doesn't really matter. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a separate video somewhere down below so you can have a look at how I'm using it and how it works. But those are basically the main questions. So if you're interested, go look at this video or click through to the next page and see how fast they load. The next page and this page, depending where you see this video, is done in Convertri, and it goes to, or it shows how fast that page loads. And then go and look at your own needs. If you ever do any sort of marketing pages, landing pages, webinar pages, sales pages, etc., look at the ones you're using at the moment and put them in GT metrics. And if you start exceeding those 3 seconds, be aware you are losing a lot of customers simply because the page is too slow to load. That's a fact. So you could do yourself a massive favor by checking out Convertri, because without any additional modifications, no tech geekery on your part, it is already insanely fast, simply because it is using that fast hosting that is used by the likes of Twitter, by Lonely Planet, by GovUK, by Wistia, etc, etc, etc. Alrighty, so there's a link somewhere around here to Convertri. Go and check it out. Cheers, bye.